of the United States, which means I get to help work on programs related to family support, like our Center for Future Planning, as well as other initiatives around social inclusion and supporting families and people with IDD. I'm so thrilled to talk with you about future planning today. I think it's a really important topic. If you guys do have any questions during the presentation, I think we are going to have a few minutes at the end so that I can answer for you what I can or point you in the direction of other resources. So if you do have any that you think of, please feel free to put them in the chat box as we go along, and we'll make sure we'll answer them there at the end. So today we're talking about future planning and really emphasizing how it can be done and why it is important. So I wanted to give you guys a sense of where we're going to go in the presentation today. First, I'm going to describe for you and define for you what future planning is and some of the principles around future planning. And then I want to tell you a little bit about why people often don't make those future plans. And how we here at the center have developed tools and resources to really help people overcome the barriers that they experience and make these plans so that people with IDD in their life can live a full and independent life. And then finally, I want to spend some time on two issues that we often get a lot of calls about here at our center. One on thinking about ways that people will make decisions in their lives and in the future, and about ways to save for the future, in particular looking at special needs trusts and ABLE accounts. So first of all, what is future planning? Future planning is creating a guide for a person with IDD to live a good life as independently as possible. A person-centered future plan reflects the wishes of the person with ID foremost, as well as his or her parents, siblings, extended family members, friends, and other important people in their life. This plan helps a person to lead a good life as independently as possible. While many people create future plans at many different times in their lives, and especially during times of transition, a future plan is often critical to have to discuss what should happen after a parent or a caregiver is no longer able to provide support. Future plans can include a variety of information about all aspects of a person's life, including what they do every day, any needs for support that they have in their daily life. It can talk about where they live, where they work, and what they do every day. It can talk about the finances of the person as well as the family to support that person in their future life. And it often includes information about a medical history and doctors a person visits. It can talk about a person's background, a person's education, their religious or cultural beliefs. And it often talks about how people make decisions in their life and how they want the people in their life to support them to make the decisions that they're going to need to make. So it's a very holistic plan. And there's often many principles that go into this plan. First of all is that a future plan is made by a team. It's not just one person making a plan in isolation and sharing it with others, but the person with intellectual and developmental disability, his or her parents, siblings, extended family and friends, anyone that the person really feels is important in their life that they want to have as part of the team can all play key roles. And so one of the first things that often happens in creating a future plan is to identify who those people are and what roles they can play in helping to develop and helping to carry out and keep that plan updated. So that is often one of the first steps of future planning. The second thing to know is that every plan is really person-centered and person-driven, that it reflects the wishes of the person with IDD and how they want the plan to develop, because it should be aligned with what their vision of the future should be. It should also be guided by, as well by the wishes of the family and the other important people in the person's life. One role that sometimes the team that is created often identifies maybe somebody to help resolve conflicts. We know that often people want to do really wonderful things in their life, and sometimes a family might so that's wonderful, but we're concerned about safety. So somebody who might be able to help kind of resolve the conflicts and help the person, reach their vision, but also, make sure we're addressing some of the concerns that other members of the family might have. The third thing to really know about future planning is that you don't need money or a lawyer to create a future plan, but there are occasions where you may want them. As I mentioned, a future plan is really holistic. It considers all the aspects of a person's life, and it's about communicating a plan. And you don't need to hire a lawyer to kind of tell somebody what somebody's interests and activities are or where they work. But there are parts of a future plan, particularly around if anyone needs any legal documents developed or around thinking about the finances, where you might want to engage with a professional. Another thing to know about future planning is that the objective of future planning is to help smooth transitions in the lives of people with IDD and their families. And in particular, this type of transition and one where the caregiver can no longer provide care can be extremely disruptive in the life of the person with IDD. Not only would somebody be often having to deal with the trauma or stress of that transition, but that can also lead to gaps in support. It could lead to issues of losing a residence. It can create quite a crisis situation. So creating the future plan is all about having, establishing early what the support really should be, so that when a transition occurs, everybody is aware of what's going on. It's still going to be a very difficult transition, but that we're planning for the continuation of a person's life kind of before and after that transition would occur. And the final thing to really know about future planning is that when it's done right, it really never ends. We have people who will build plans now, and then you need to revise it in 6 months or in a year as people's interests, activities, jobs, where they live might change. So it should be something that is continually reviewed as changes occur in the life of a person with IDD. So we've talked a little bit about some of the principles and the objectives of future planning. So if it's about smoothing transition, why really don't people make future plans? We know that there are about 1 million families in the U.S. in which an adult with IDD is living with an aging family member or aging caregiver, and there is no place in plan in place for what's going to go on in a person's future. We know that there is 1 million of them, 2/3 of them, so 600 to 700,000, where there is no plan in place. So why don't people plan? First may be a lack of understanding of the steps involved in making a future plan, or a lack of information about what is included in future planning. The second reason can often be fear, really a fear or difficulty in addressing emotional issues about a caregiver's mortality or about what's going to happen in this transition. We know from talking to parents, and from families, no one is going to is going to support the person with ID as well as that family member can, and that's often a real moment of fear. And so helping people address that fear and move on and be able to plan in a productive way is a really important thing to recognize, to respect, and to kind of support people to get through. We know that there's a shortage of appropriate disability services in many places around the country, and that sometimes families have a distrust of the service system. It is estimated that approximately 75% of people with IDD and their families in our country don't access or use the IDD service system. And that can happen for many reasons, including, frustration with navigating the service system, kind of bad experiences in the past, or not being able to find kind of the right information at the right time in the right way. So, if people are not connected to supports that they can use that really make sense for their family, it can often be really hard for people to create that future plan for what should happen. And finally, families often feel that planning is not available or not something they ought to do because they either can't afford the services of professionals or attorneys, or because they are not sometimes aware that future planning should be done regardless of whether there is money that needs to be addressed or whether a legal decision needs to be made. So in 2014, we set up the Center for Future Planning to really help support families, professionals, people with IDD to think more about future planning. We want to help them plan for the future and provide reliable information and assistance to people with IDD, their families and friends, professionals who support them, and other members of the communities on areas related to future planning, specifically person-centered planning, decision-making, looking at housing options, and financial planning. And to do this, we have 4 kind of major baskets of activities that we work on. We have a website that we put resources and tools out on. We do information and referral services to people who contact us. We host webinars and we offer training. And finally, we provide printed material and resources. So I'm going to go and tell you a little bit more about what we are doing here. Our website is one key way in which we really seek to break down the barriers that families face in future planning. If you go to our website, the message of our website is clear. It's future planning. It is possible and necessary. Our website focuses on providing clear, easy to understand, practical information about future planning. We tailor our information to different users, so the different people in the life of a person with IDD. We provide practical steps that families need to take to create this plan, and we use supportive and person-centered language. We also do our best. It's not my skill set always, but I do my best to present information in a streamlined, concise way. We often know that sometimes the toolkits that families receive on different type of planning, I was reading through some and they were 800 pages, and families have so many things that they need to do in the day, and sometimes a really extensive manual can be wonderful but a little bit too unwieldy to work through. So we do our best to provide people enough information to guide them through what they need to know. On our website, we tailor information to 6 different audiences. We tailor it to parents, people with IDD, siblings, staff at chapters of the ARC, other family and friends, and professionals. And we've included a lot of information specifically for siblings. We know that they have one of the longest lasting relationships, the sibling relationship, and they often have questions about what role they should play in the transition and in the life of a person after a parent can really no longer provide that support. We talk with a bunch of siblings, and often they don't know how to start that conversation with their families, so we provide them some icebreaker conversation starters kind of on how to start talking about future planning and on any specific resources that they may need. In addition to providing information tailored to different audiences, we cover the 6 major areas of future planning on our website. The first is expressing wishes for the future. This is sometimes often called a letter of intent. It's an outline of information about that is the future plan, and it's on the areas I was speaking of before, on the daily routines, support needs, legal and financial matters. It's not a legal document. So you don't have to have a lawyer sign it, but it can be an important resource during a time of transition and really communicate to other people in the life of a person with IDD about the history and the hopes for the future. The second area we cover is deciding where to live. This section really talks about kind of the wide variety of settings that people with IDD may live in, and it provides a list of preferences that a person can think about what's important to them in a future home. do you want to live with a person? Do you want to live in a home, a townhome, a condo, in a big city? To help people think about what that next home is really going to look for them, what's important in the community around it. Is it on public transit? Is it near, a place of worship or a hospital or a family member? And it provides also prompts to think about things like how you're going to pay for the home or what type of support do you need to live in the home. So it's really prompting people to think kind of practically about what that looks like, and then to connect with people in the area that they live or they want to live that can help them find their next home. The third area that we talk about is financing the future. And this section really talks about how to create comprehensive financial plans, how to think about what public benefits a person might be eligible for and what private resources there might be in the family and what other private tools you might use like ABLE accounts and special needs trusts to really kind of create this a financial plan to make sure that the things that people need in the future are paid for. And specifically on special needs trusts and ABLE accounts, we get a lot of questions, and so that's what one of the things I'll cover a little bit later in the webinar. The fourth section we talk about is about employment and daily activities. Adults with IDD are employed in many different settings, and so we talk not only about how to help people find that first job and get their toe into the job pool, but also how to take that first job, make sure you're doing it well and kind of building that into the career that you want to have in your life. So not only looking about getting into the workforce, but also really figuring out what path that you want to take and the steps that, that we should be taking to build skills and to, encourage people to network and find those next activities or opportunities. The fifth section I'll cover a little bit more on thinking about what decisions a person makes right now and what decisions they want to make in the future and how to make sure we go through the process of deciding what options and tools we need to use to help a person make all the decisions that they want to make in their life. And the final section is about making social connections. And when we talk with families, they think about the future life of the person with IDD, they always say, we want to make sure they're living a good and full life, that they're doing everything they want to do, that they have family and friends surrounding them. So we talk in this section a lot about how to review your social network, how to think about how you want it to change, and then how to make a plan to go out and try new things and meet new people. We talk about, the importance of creating and driving your interests, trying out new hobbies. And we also talk in this section about more romantic relationships as well, because that's often an interest of people with IDD. So we talk about healthy dating, about considerations around any marriage or children, and the importance of self-advocacy in all of the relationships that a person has in their life. So we try to speak really broadly to the wide range of planning topics. We also do include a page on our website for people who are currently in an urgent, in the midst of a transition in a crisis scenario, to kind of give them the immediate information as well. Another key section of our website is in sharing stories about how other people have made plans and kind of what has happened for them. And because the fear can often be one issue that families really have to face, seeing how other people have gone through this and kind of come out the other side of the planning process can often feel really supportive and help people think practically about what that planning process might look like in their family. Another section of our website that we have built within the last year and a half is called the Build Your Plan tool. We created this tool to really better serve families and individuals with IDD and future planning. In the Build Your Plan section of the site, users will click through a decision tree, and then the path they take through that decision tree is customized to them based upon their specific family situation and the information they share. So if you were going through a path, you would say, you know, I have made a plan on this, and here is the plan, or I haven't thought about this yet. Take me through all the introductory information. So it's really tailored to where each family is in kind of thinking about their future plan. It helps them identify steps that they should take to make a plan, and then people can write information into this tool, and it's stored there in the tool, and then they can share that information and the plan with other people who may need to know that information. So I want to show you a little bit about how this tool works. So here you can see on the screen ahead of you an example for the supporting major and daily life, daily and major life decisions task. So if you were on the computer, this is what the screen would look like. And you would kind of be clicking through and learning more about kind of all the different parts of supporting daily and major life decisions. If you click next, it would take you to a to-do. So in a to-do, you either have information you can complete, decisions you have to make, or there's a step that you need to take. For instance, kind of going out into the community and talking with somebody, or talking, if you're a parent, talking with your son or daughter with IDD about what they want. And so the person would either complete the information, complete the step, and then kind of move forward in the task. If they don't have the information, or if they want to save the step till later, they can save the step, and it would go on a to-do list for them to work on later. And after information, any information that is put in a to-do list can be seen later in a section called View Your Plan. And so it includes all of the steps that you take, any information that you put in, and then this information can be shared with other people so that everyone knows what the plan is or what decisions have been made, where we are in the planning process. I'm always concerned about security, so we do have all the data that could be put in this plan is protected. No one can access it except for you or anyone that you've shared the email list with. So far, since we launched this about a year and a half ago, we have about 1,000 people who are in the Build Your Plan tool and using it. So we're very excited about it, and we've gotten some feedback on that. It has helped people kind of really think about the steps and particularly get that really tailored information about what that family really, what steps that family might really want to think about taking. The other part of our website is our professional services directory. This directory enables families to identify professionals in their communities that can help them create and implement future plans. The directory is like an electronic Yellow Pages, so everyone listed in it has to have paid to be there, but you can search by state, so you could find people in Massachusetts who can provide some future planning services. And currently we have special needs lawyers signed up. One additional piece of the website that's going to be launched within the next month will be expansion and creation of content that is going to be directed for people with disabilities. So currently in our Build Your Plan tool, we have information for parents, and if you were a sibling or another professional going through, it would say, hey, your path is not quite up yet, but we have the parent path and you can go through. So we've been working on creating customized pathing for people with IDD. We also have created videos that will include an overview of each of the major subject areas of future planning. And within each video, it has an overview of the issue as well as stories from people with IDD who have had experience in doing, in working on the topic. For example, we'll have, thinking about where to live or deciding a future home. We have an overview. Then we have 2 self-advocates who have actually found a future home, and they get to share about the steps that they took, what has happened, and give recommendations to other people who might be doing future planning on this. We're also working on developing and finalizing easy-to-read materials for people with IDD about future planning, and this will include kind of kind of clear, concise, easy to read sentences and visuals to kind of help people learn more about future planning. So that should be online within the next month. In addition to all of the website pieces that we work on, we also host webinars and trainings. Some of the recent webinars, if you're interested, include planning for people with IDD as they age, and so dealing with healthcare advocacy and medical decision making. We also have done a recent webinar on supporting families that support a member who has a dual diagnosis of intellectual and developmental disability as well as mental health concerns. So if you are interested in any specific topics, I would encourage you to check out our webinar archive. And finally, we have this robust website, but we also know that a lot of people don't want to work online with this, and a lot of future planning really can't be done online. So we do provide print materials and resources that people can access either by going to the website and clicking, or you can contact me and I can send you that. But we include, we have a flyer here if you are a professional, know of other families who might be interested. Our tip sheets for siblings, we have a tip sheet about things you might want to consider when trying to find a lawyer. Our letter, when I was talking about the letter of intent, so kind of the whole plan you can actually print and then fill it out and store it physically. So we have, many of our online resources have been translated to print resources, and we'd be happy to share those with you. So if you are interested, please feel free to contact me after the webinar, and I can get those to you. So that is the overview of what the center does. I wanted to spend kind of the balance of the presentation on some of the issues that we hear and concerns we hear most commonly from families and from professionals. The first of which really surrounds decision-making options. So, we all make decisions every day, and these decisions can range from, making simple purchases to managing a budget to talking with a healthcare provider about medical care. People with IDD may often seek out trusted family or friends really to help them make some daily and major life decisions, as we all do in our lives. And as we're thinking about decision-making options that a person may need support with during their life, it is important that we recognize that there are many decisions that people can make, and we need to look at their ability and their strengths when thinking about what options might be a best fit to help a person make the decisions that they want and need to make in their lives. And there are many different options that a person can use to make decisions. Some people don't need any help to make decisions. I'm not one of those people, but some people might be able to make all their decisions independently. Some people might want informal support. So they might want advice from other people, and they'll get their feedback and then they'll make their decision. Some people might need help communicating their decisions. If somebody, has struggles to really communicate their decisions, they might ask a supporter who really understands how they communicate to basically translate and help them carry out the decision that they want to make. Some people might use assistive technology or phone apps to help them make the decisions that they need to make in their lives. Other people may use more formal support. So people might use representative payees. For anyone who doesn't know what those are people, a group, an agency who help the person with disabilities manage their money from public benefits. They might use authorized healthcare representatives, or also called a medical proxy, who can help a person with a disability make decisions about health insurance coverage and make a claim on their health insurance. Or a person with a disability may give somebody a power of attorney for financial or healthcare decisions, or any type of decision the person with a disability wants to empower them to make. You may empower a person to make many decisions, or they could be limited to one or two different types. The other option is a full or limited guardianship. Guardianship tends to be overused and over-recommended. So before a guardianship is considered, we often really encourage people to think about less restrictive decision-making options. A guardianship essentially is when the court appoints a person to make decisions for an adult who has been evaluated by the court and found to be incapable of making all or some types of decisions. And this could be for all of their decisions, or it could be limited to certain decisions. But again, we do recommend this only as a kind of a last resort, that it be limited to as few areas as possible and tailored to the individual needs and preferences of the person with IDD. So there are many different options that people might choose to use, but when they are doing this, there is something called a supported decision-making process that people often use to determine which option is the best fit for a person with IDD. So, and that supported decision-making is really this process, and it's the process where a person with IDD gets help understanding and making their decisions with the aid of trusted people, their supporters. And supported decision-making really allows the person with a disability to keep as much control as they have about their own life and choices. And so a person with a disability can pick, different or multiple people for different decisions. For example, they may have a supporter who's really good at doing taxes, but they may not want that same person helping them with dating relationships. So, it's thinking about the skill sets that a person with IDD has and the decisions they make and want to make in their life, the help that they want or need in their life, and the skill sets of the people around them. And so the person with a disability should really identify and choose those supporters. And those supporters can be drawn from multiple groups, and that can be, friends, it could be family members, it could be professionals or support professionals, kind of absent a conflict of interest there. An example of what that could look like could be this example. There could be a person who really wants to make financial decisions, but they have trouble managing their budget, and they have trouble sometimes making sure they're paying their bills, but they want to make decisions about how their money is spent. So if they have a supporter in their life who can meet with them once a month and kind of look at their budget, help them make sure the bills are paid, and help, get from the person with a disability what they want to spend their money on and help them figure out a plan to do that month, that would be an example of a supported decision-making process working. And after that, you would kind of review that process over the next several months and make sure it's working the way the person with a disability really wants it to be working in their life. There are some times where it would be beneficial to really hold kind of meetings of all the people who are providing support around decision-making, especially when it deals with major decisions. If somebody's moving to a new home, that might, impact kind of legal decisions. Somebody's, if they're buying a home or if they're signing a contract, it could involve, support needs. It could involve staffing. It could involve, obviously, finances. It could involve a range of different people. So sometimes it's good to have a kind of a group meeting of everybody around who's supporting to kind of make sure that the process is being followed for all the different types of decisions. But regardless of the decision-making option, regardless of guardianship status, we had a few things we really thought if we were talking to families we wanted to emphasize. And that's really, all people with IDD should really think about, all people with IDD should be able to participate to the maximum extent possible in making and executing decisions about themselves. And that we have to really support people with IDD to retain their fundamental civil and human rights unless explicitly limited by court order. One of the things many people don't know about guardianship is because it transfers the rights, the autonomy to other people, people often lose their right to vote. They can, lots of decisions about, who they wanted to know in their life, marriage and divorce, using different types of medications. Many of those decisions can be taken away, and that really does have a profound impact, lifelong impact on the life of a person with IDD. So we really, strongly encourage people to think about how to maximize the participation and the choice. And we encourage people to really think about what options and supports really minimize how much a person's choice is limited in their life. The other thing that we really wanted to talk about today was on ABLE accounts and special needs trusts. So ABLE accounts are special savings accounts for people with disabilities. These are modeled after the 529 college savings plans and they help, they're designed to be easy to use, they have low costs, and they promote autonomy. The beneficiary of the account is the account owner. So the person with a disability, they are the account owner. They get to determine what the funds are used for. Parents can control the account for a minor child. Things to know about the ABLE account, you can only have one account. That account can be established in any state's qualified ABLE program. Massachusetts does have a program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a minute. But even though a person lives in Massachusetts, they can establish an ABLE account in any state they want to. And currently there is a $14,000 a year cap on all contributions to an ABLE account. The $14,000 is actually the gift cap. So that could change in the future as that number would be changed. To open an ABLE account, you have to meet two requirements. You must have acquired a disability before your 26th birthday, and you have to be able to provide proof of the severity of the disability. And you can use the funds in the ABLE accounts on disability-related expenses, which could include basic living expenses as well as expenses around education, housing, transportation, assistive technology, some financial management, as well as legal fees. So it can be used for a variety of things, and we would recommend you kind of find out more if you are interested in it as you're going along. They can give you a list of kind of more specific things that this can be used for. And you can save up to $100,000 in an ABLE account without impacting any Social Security supplemental security income, SSI benefits. Once an account reaches $100,000, the SSI cash payments will be suspended until the balance of the account goes below that. And then when it goes below, the SSI payments will return. They are not terminated. You do not have to reapply. It's just suspended until the balance goes below. These funds in an ABLE account do not impact Medicaid eligibility and coverage. However, when the beneficiary of the account passes away, any remaining assets in the ABLE account can be used to reimburse the state Medicaid agency for services provided after the ABLE account was created. They call that sometimes the Medicaid payback. So that will occur with ABLE accounts. You can choose to use Massachusetts ABLE Savings Plan. It's the Attainable Savings Plan, or you can use another plan. You can compare the Massachusetts plan to other state ABLE plans online. I give you a website for you to do that. Every state has different plans. Well, not every state, but the plans all have different investment options, annual fees, contribution minimums, maximum balances. They use kind of different people to shepherd these investments. For example, Massachusetts uses Fidelity Investments. So it really, I encourage you to go and check out the state comparison and see what program would work best for your family if you are interested. Finally, special needs trusts is something I want to chat with you all about today. Special needs trusts are legal arrangements that let a person with IDD enjoy the benefits of private funds, and while keeping their eligibility for federal and state benefits. The money in the trust is not owned by the person with IDD, so that is why it does not impact the eligibility. There is no limit on contributions, so this can include both cash as well as other type of assets like houses. But special needs trusts can be complex really to establish and administer. There are two different types of trusts, individual trusts and pooled trusts. Individual trusts are established privately by a person with IDD or a family, and it's managed by a professional trustee or by a family member or friend. A pooled trust, which I'm going to talk about later, has a bit of different rules. So there are two kinds of individual special needs trusts. A first-party special needs trust is one that is funded with a person with disability's own money. This can sometimes this money can come from a lawsuit or a lump sum payment from Social Security or work income. There is a Medicaid payback, so you have to reimburse Medicaid after the beneficiary dies. There is also a third-party individual trust that's funded from family members or a third-party funding. And that money could be from a gift or inheritance or the proceeds of a life insurance, for example. But it's important not to mix money from those kind of two sources. And it's really important with individual trusts that whoever is managing it is really aware of tax codes, of the rules around special needs trusts and the benefits that a person is receiving. So it requires, quite a lot of very deep knowledge to really administer those trusts. There is also a type of trust called a pooled trust. A pooled trust is managed by a nonprofit organization. In these types of trusts, you have an individual account, and the funds from your account and from other people who also have accounts with the pooled trusts are pooled together just for investment purposes and maintained all together, but everybody accesses their own money kind of separately. Often an account can be established in a pooled trust without any funds and then later is funded through the proceeds of a life insurance policy or through a will. This can also include both kind of the money from a person with a disability as well as the money from other family members or other third parties. In Massachusetts, there are two pooled special needs trusts. The first, and I've listed them here, so if you are interested in pooled trusts, you can check these out. Our professional service directory also lists other special needs lawyers that might be available in Massachusetts, or you might individually already kind of have an idea of people in other trusts in Massachusetts. Before I go, I wanted to give you a few resources. The first is again the website for the Center for Future Planning. Please check this out and see if it helps you. And if you need any additional support and you have any questions, please contact me. I can see if I can direct you to other resources you might need. This is a link to our Finding a Lawyer tip sheet. It's for people to access if you want to use a special needs lawyer. It gives you kind of tips and considerations that you might want to make as you're choosing and selecting a lawyer. I also include some research here on supported decision making. In healthcare, we have some more information about our Build Your Plan tool. The ARC's position statement surrounding promoting autonomy, which also addresses decision making supports and guardianship. We also include some standards for practice if somebody is a guardian, as well as additional resources related to supported decision-making. The link that you see at the very bottom is a link to the National Resource Center on Supported Decision-Making, which was really established to help people learn more about kind of practical ways to do supported decision-making in their lives. So I think that I finished kind of giving you all the information that I have today. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat box, and I can do my best to give you more information. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, well, thank you, Jenny. We do actually have some questions. Diane had a question about special needs trusts versus ABLE accounts. Are both needed?
Some people choose to have one or the other or both or neither. It really depends upon your family situation and what your family decides to do. I would really take a look at it, at both options, and decide if either of them are good for your family.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Thanks, Jenny, for that. So now there's a question about, Lisa had a question about helping guardians to understand the value of expanding the decision-making role of the person under guardianship. What are the benefits to supporting and strengthening this from the viewpoint of the guardian? Is there a way to talk about this, just not retaining civil rights, but how it contributes to future safety or quality of life for the individual?
Well, I think absolutely, and when we think about building decision-making skills, also involves a lot of self-advocacy, and it helps people think about risks in their lives. It helps people make judgments. So I think anything that we can do to support people to improve their decision-making skill set and really maximize it and use it, because if you don't use your decision-making skills, you kind of, I'm from the Midwest, you move it or lose it. So if you don't use them, then you don't have that practice and you don't know how to do. And I imagine if you were a guardian, you'd want to make sure somebody's exercising those, even if they don't have the legal ability, that you would want to make sure that the person every day kind of is speaking up for themselves, is learning how to make and evaluate risks in their lives, is making sure they're clear with you about what they want you to be doing for them in their life as well. So I think it's really, certainly not just a civil rights issue, but also really about making sure a person has the skills, the knowledge, the tools to make the best decisions that they can in their life, and really make sure that what they want in their life is what you're really supporting them to do. So absolutely, Lisa.
All right. I've also heard of families that they use the supported decision-making model, but they also may be a medical proxy or power of attorney. Have you heard of that, Jenny, being integrated with supported decision-making?
Yes, but in general, I think supported decision-making is kind of the process, and then you kind of look at the range of tools, and those can be the informal supports. And there are examples where people might also have kind of the more formal supports lined up. I'll give an example of somebody in our office here who is in California it's called a conservator, but she is a conservator for her sister. But within that, she really supports her sister to really fully, as fully as she can, really express her opinions around her finances, around what she wants to do, and around her health care. So even if there is kind of one of those more formal supports like a conservator or a health care proxy, a medical proxy, that doesn't mean you shouldn't kind of go through that decision-making process where you think about what decisions a person can make, where you think about what skills you can use to kind of help somebody build their decision-making ability, and where you think about what support that they might be, whether that be an informal support or a formal support, and then you kind of match that. And I will say kind of the same thing as, in a future plan, a good future plan is never done. A good supported decision-making process, you always want to be kind of monitoring and evaluating that, amending that as somebody maybe if they, as decision-making skills improve, you might want to consider changing that in the future as well.
Okay, great. And then another question from Diane. Can you explain a little bit more about Medicaid payback?
I'm not an expert in this, but I'll let you know what I do know about it. So the Medicaid payback is really it's after a beneficiary, so it's after the person with disabilities would pass away, for whom is the person who is the beneficiary of the account. The money in that account would go back to pay the state Medicaid agency for any services that the person had incurred. For the ABLE account, it's since the point that the ABLE account was made, and it's just kind of states have different rules about it, but in general, that is the rule there. So, and I'm sorry because I can't really give more detail about the process or procedure around that. I just know that's kind of the way it all works out. Carrie, I don't know if you have any information on that one as well in Massachusetts specifically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, I mean, I have about the level of understanding that you do, you know, not being an attorney, but basically, you know, any Medicaid dollars that were spent, if there is a balance at you know, when the person is no longer with us, it goes to Medicaid. It can't go to a, you know, back to be given to a family or a sister or whatever. So, but, you know, again, an attorney who specializes in this is really the best person to speak with. But so we do have another comment. Just wanted to bring up that, and I apologize, you're right. We have people here today from PLAN of Massachusetts and Rhode Island who also do provide pool trusts in Massachusetts. So you can also access their services. So anyways, we have a couple minutes left. Just wondering if anybody else has any questions. Yes, and just a question from Amy. Yep, I will be emailing you the PowerPoint after the session's over. Anything else? People are very appreciative. So great.
Well,
it sounds.
If anyone has, you know, please, I really do encourage people. My baby is kind of the Build Your Plan tool, which really is about customizing information for families, and that's one of the things I feel really, you know, very, very strongly about is that, goodness gracious, it's a hard enough, you know, topic to deal with. I don't want you guys to have to read through 800 pages of anything. But, you know, if you take a look at the resources, if you have any questions or need any help with anything, please do let me know. I'd be more than happy to work with you and help you get any help you need.
Okay, we do have one last question from Amy. Can you say anything about the limits of guardianship versus healthcare proxy on making end-of-life medical decisions?
You know, that's not my area of expertise. I would not want to say anything or lead you in the wrong direction with anything there. But I would definitely want to connect with a special needs attorney on that and really make sure that you would know the difference between what those different tools could do. But again, not being an attorney, I don't really want to tell you the difference between those two. I don't want to steer you wrong on so.
There's also something in Massachusetts called Mass Options. Because I think a lot of times, you know, the elder service agencies may have resources more on that because they deal with that on a little bit more of an ongoing basis. So you may want to consider reaching out to Mass Options and getting us also connected with, we call them ADRCs, or Area Resource and Aging Disability Organizations. So. All right, then. I think that's it. Jenny, thank you so much for a great presentation. Really appreciate it. And also, thank you to all who joined in today. Also, on the ARC of Massachusetts resource pages, we have a link to the Center for Future Planning. So if you know, forget about some of this stuff, you can go and hop on our website in that, click on the link, and you'll go right to the ARC of the United States. So I think it's a great tool. Thank you so much again, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you so much.